you here today. In German as well. A warm welcome to you all. My name is Christina. I am a film student in Ludwigsburg at the Film Academy, and I am a storyteller as far as my job is concerned. And if you can do this job, of course, some questions arise, especially about power and responsibility. So we are quite influential about what we are telling and our intentions, of course, we want to pursue with our storytelling. And of course, it's a great tool as far as communication, climate communication is concerned. And in this sense, if you have any questions or if you are dedicated to this, you can ask questions with responsibility I have as a storyteller. And if I have decided to tell stories or storytelling, how can I do it? What is very important about it? So I'm very happy to welcome Krüger. He is the managing director of film productions, Ammonia, and he founded the task force. And he can answer some questions today. If you have any questions to Christian, you can do that in the Zoom, or you do it with our link, which is blended in YouTube, and we will receive the questions. And after that, after the presentation, we will of course reply these questions. I would like to hand to you, Christian. Thank you very much for this friendly presentation. Hello to everybody. It's nice that you have the time that I can tell some stories. I prepared a short presentation. I would like to share this with you. And we can directly start. Christina, do you see everything? Do you see the presentation? Yes. Okay. As Christina reported at the beginning, I'm a filmmaker, not alone, with 20 additional filmmakers at Ammonia Media from Dortmund. And we do not make movies or advertising films. We do documentary films. A documentary film, an image product or product film is an additional aid for somebody who wants to make films or movies between two jobs, between movies, to overbridge the time if you want, and we do it with passion. 1 year ago, we had an encounter which opened up the climate crisis to us, and after that we changed completely our model, our business model, and I would like to report on this transformation we made. I have prepared 5 short chapters, which I would like to present today, and I would like to start with chapter 1. From door closes and small gazes. Our customers are customers from the medium-sized industry, craft industry, small businesses, regions, cities, municipalities who say, okay, we have a product, we have a machine, we have a system which we want like to explain for a very specific target group. And we came with this device, or we contacted this device. It's a door closer. It's relatively complicated if you want, as far as the structure is concerned. It consists of more than 100 components, and it's the intention, of course, is the purpose is to close a door, and you say you see on the top of the door if you have such a device. And here in this context, we have the task to make a movie about this, a movie or a film which is really effective, which is a hit, a great hit. And one we can show to our families to say, okay, here, that's what we do. To make this type of films, to be able to sell it. And we were facing the challenge to make a film which is emotional and which is dealing with this device. So we were considering it very thoroughly, very carefully. How can you do it? How can you fill this with emotions? I think it was very hot summer evening when we came together, one of the hottest probably, and when Florian called me, he's a founder, and he said, my girlfriend has the idea for the film we can do. And it is dealing with a little boy who's an inventor sitting in his room, and he's quite stressed by noises coming through the door. And then he tries to close the door because he's quite intelligent. He decided, okay, I will construct something which keeps the door closed, but with only little success. And then at school, he became aware of the system at school, a door closer at the door, which he realized. So closing the door, he tried to become familiar with the caretaker or the janitor, asking him what it is, and he took part in the guide, the factory, doing some company spying, and he built his own door closer in his private environment, and he was quite satisfied with it. And our customer was, of course, also very satisfied with the result, and we got some awards for this, and we were very proud that we could make it. To make something so complicated and very sophisticated, to tell it so emotionally with your entire soul. And some of you probably became aware it's the journey of the hero. A hero has a problem, he finds a mentor, in this case a janitor, he addresses him, he goes into another world. It's the work in this case, the closing door system, and his contribution to this. Just as a small story. A few years later, we came with these products and we launched these products. It's a film project for the International Garden Exposition in 2027 for the Metropolis Ruhr. It's a Ruhr area, and in some years the garden exposition is going to take place here. And it's more than a flower exposition. It's something which changes the region. I think it's a nice story. It's a nice parallel story, because here in this region you will become the most greenest region, and which shows that the structural change is so significant. It should transform this garden exposition, how we live, how we work, how we reside, and for the way we live. We wanted to show these pictures, and we had a look around in the region, what we found, and we came to the Fraunhofer Institute in Oberhausen, where we made some findings, where we did a short testing device. And at this shooting day, I was on the spot with the device. It's my own shooting here. As a director, normally you are there and you take part in it. And at that time, I had some time to talk to the scientists who were on the side, and I was asking them, why do you do this structure? Why do you do this? Why do you do this vertical talks? And maybe it was a joke, and it was quite briefly. He said, if we cannot manage the climate, we need to live subterraneously. And this for me was a realized moment. I realized that the climate transformation is not an abstract danger. It really concerns me and affects me. And I knew before that we are facing a climate change, and I said, okay, there will be somebody who is dealing with it, who is solving the problem. And when something has been initiated, you see suddenly in all places that something is moving. For example, the passion for a blue bike. You see blue bikes everywhere, and what it has to do with the subject of climate change can be seen here, that there is a great deal of climate communication. So we discovered this book, Small Gases, Big Impact. Somebody found it in a hotel, and he brought it, and he said it's super great, and it explains the climate crisis very specifically. And we contacted the students who wrote this book, and we asked for their story. Why did you do this book? That was our question. We wanted to be informed about the climate change and their motivation. And we found a good directory, and they made their own directory, if you want. That was their inspiration, their motivation. So for a storyteller, this is a fantastic story, I think. And we met them, and we said, okay, we need to do a film. And we were confident with this. And we said, if we manage to do such a complicated product and to tell it so emotionally, we could also manage the climate crisis and see how far we can go with our tools, with which we got familiar in 10 years of industrial films. A film and 1,000 film or target groups. That was the original version. We normally start with a workshop. Here there is a superior rough topic, not the final subject, and a lot of people know it. Let's do a film about the climate crisis. And then we came together and invited the authors, the filmmakers, and we basically talked about our possibilities. It's very important in the premises to do such a workshop and to touch the people, the wishes and the concerns of the people, to know what is the specific aim. And this specific aim was determined. And after that, after all the stakeholders are addressed, you can think which way you go in order to make a film. And at the end of this workshop, for us, there was the target to do a film ending the climate crisis. So we could always think in a very modest way. And after the workshop, we did our investigation. What is possible? What is existing? And as soon as you get familiar with it, you soon realize that the climate crisis has been known for thousands of years, and that everything is also a risk and a danger is quite evident. And you see this from articles from 1912, for example. So you see, okay, you have recognized the risks and there are solutions for it, and there are some exemplars, the exponential roadmap as an example, but nothing happened. So the risk was recognized and there are solutions which are detected. And the big question is, why is nothing done? So you assume probably that this thesis of climate crisis is probably a communication crisis. And if you have a closer look to the climate crisis, you soon realize that even experienced storytelling experts have difficulties in mediating this subject because it's very complex, and all the things happening here, the contexts have a global dimension, and to put it into a small story is quite difficult. So climate crisis is quite far away as far as the complicated things are concerned, mechanisms are triggered, and quite a complicated process. We can also see it in the corona crisis, that things which currently happen are not in the head of the people or have not arrived in the head of the people. So the climate crisis is quite abstract because it's so huge and so complex, and it's unpleasant, of course. The consequences are quite complicated. You need to change the society and you need to improve the society, and transformation basically for human beings is unpleasant. So if you think of this, and if you think of who has made climate communication, probably scientists are the ones who have taken this responsibility. They are scientists, not communicators. So as far as scientific communication is concerned, what solution, what scientists normally should communicate is not really was not leveraged really in the climate crisis, and I can only assume why. And often experts, as soon as you are in a group, you have your own language, your own terminology to show that the information has a certain value on a certain field. Just a short example, I like to play video games. It's my great pleasure. And if I say, okay, the grind wheel, and my opposite does not understand me in this case, I know that we are not at eye level. And if scientists write a valued text, it's quite the same situation. They have their own terminology, their own context, and maybe they build up walls which they don't want to build up. And another thing here is that there's always an antagonist. We just determined it in the fossil industry that communicative barriers, which do nothing else than communication. They do not need to research. They don't need to reveal. You can use the means of fake news to transport your information, and they have performed a great lobby performance, lobby work or lobbyism if you want. As a next step, we went a little bit more in detail and had a look which target groups have which levers, and we selected some of them, like the federal government, which can end the climate crisis. Political work, regions, cities could also terminate the climate crisis. Each city in Germany being carbon dioxide neutral can also make the whole country carbon dioxide neutral. Then there is the economy. Setting a focus on money here, on monetary systems. And this shows how communication needs to be shifted if you're working in such a field. One example is that you are not placing the climate crisis in the foreground of communication, but that you can earn some money with transformation, for example. Like, for example, in the electric trade, money can be earned, repairs, maintenance, and everything which is combined with it. Our pupils, these young people, they build up their own young life, being or becoming the new normal later on. And due to these very different target groups, we realized that how we need to build synergies here, working together, and that's difficult. We need to perform a great deal of work. We changed our targets. We said, okay, you need to make many films in order to end the climate crisis. Which leads me to our next topic, because every time we are talking about several films, we have a sort of strategy of moving pictures. A strategy of moving pictures is crucial because such a strategy categorizes the films we are producing. It shows the depth of information, the value of entertainment, and it's an easy instrument how the target group finds us and how we can find the target group. And this is especially important for climate crisis, that you don't have to start at the beginning all the time, that you don't need to explain the basics all the time. And you need to see how, to which extent somebody is in the climate crisis, how far his knowledge goes, and so on. These are important steps. Hero Hub and Help from YouTube is very important. They have made such a strategy for moving pictures and images, and they said it's very good that all the people can load up their content, and it's not sorted really. So you should really see how to be able to structure it a little bit, and they build up this guideline, which is you can work very, very well in order to improve the structure, and we did it. And we had a look how we make it, for example, the help level. The help level is the basic level. All the knowledge comes before optics. At help level, we build up multipliers, and the big disadvantage here is that most of the time you cannot really activate people. You have the help guideline, yes, you have the aid, you have the support for which they are looking. But just to give you one example here, I don't feel like driving on a bicycle, and if the only thing I know is how to repair a tire, this is not really passionate, you know, and the longing is missing a little bit here. So we did with the Scientific for Future spotlights. We work together with spotlights. These are so-called set of slides, and there are also small videos regarding certain subjects. You can deepen your knowledge here, and then at a later stage you can see how can you use it for your own presentations. The next level is the hub level. It's a so-called all-in-one solution suitable for every purpose, and we showed it in the communication in the climate crisis, how it works. It works through the hub level. All the multipliers are working here, obtaining the information at the hub level. And this can be climate agreements, for example, podcasts, if it's not in the film industry. Everywhere where we report about the climate crisis, they have certain optics and a certain charisma. And here also the crucial point is that we have our target groups, and that this realized moment is probably something which you have in advance. Somebody who makes or visits or attends a climate event, something must have happened. And in our town hall, there is a presentation, for example, and something must have happened. Just to show you an example for such a hub element, so that you can imagine it a little bit better. On the one hand, we have this animated film which we are planning, the compendium, Climate Crisis Compendium. It's in brief, we take short facts of the climate crisis and report on it. And in short, it works very well. The subjects of climate crisis are reported and enlightening takes place. This can also be political communication, like, for example, this is one good case here, showcase here for renewable energy law, which needs to be improved and to go into the right direction and to direct the people into the right direction. We show something how it can be improved. And at this level, some things need to be considered. And Jan Espen Stoll, a Norwegian environmental psychologist, he made a super illumination here, illustration, and you can really send it around and transfer it. And he describes what you need to take in mind. And a very important point here is the doom and the 3-to-1 effect. You should not really place into the foreground the catastrophe, but you should really see the 3 positive items here connected with the positive solution of the climate crisis. And what is also important is the story for identity. So storytelling element which concern me, which affect me directly. And as I said at the beginning, by this, you don't get the realized impact. So here, for this, we have the so-called hero. The hero also has a certain function. Only one topic, which is triggering this realizing moment with a great deal of charisma. You see this illustration, you see this triangle here, but the problem here is that the people don't know at this stage that they are interested in the environment and how to touch these people. I would like to explain it a little bit more to you now. It's the thing with the bubbles. When we talked with the science Dr. Engelhardt and we were talking about the climate agreement, we could recognize that there are relevant gaps. And we have people in our target groups from 20 to 25 and from 40 to open end. All the age structures in the middle were not existing for all climate agreements. It's quite seldom that these people exist. We were talking to our friend, our scientist friend, and asking him, is this normal or was it a coincidence? And he said, well, he is also observing this because the people, and he's assuming this, that the people have to do with life, what is happening around them. So a climate subject is not in their head. This is Simon's stock footage, and he has this life. He's interested in comedy, he's working a lot because he needs to earn money, he has a family, he has a house which he has to pay. So he's very stressed, integrated in his daily routine. He knows that the climate crisis exists, but somebody will care about this. So let's go into the communication bubble. In this Simon stock footage. Communication nowadays does not works through these bubbles like YouTube. You have interests, you watch videos, and I bet that everybody who's watching that no video start screen is similar or equal to another bubble or similar to another video in the chat. It's a very simplified explanation, but you have somebody who is interested in houses and finances. We have the comedy as a hobby in this bubble, and we have also these sweet cat videos, and the climate topic is quite far away. So there's a barrier somehow. And this climate subject is the so-called hero. That's, we can overbridge in this bubble, the topic overbridging. So the subject of climate is not in the foreground. It does not have to be in the foreground. Why the target group, which is watched or which is watching the hero, does not say I'm interested, or I want to be informed about climate. There is a romantic movie, for example, that people are watching, or some documentaries about money. It could be Western or a horror movie. So something which has to do with the climate and which triggers a certain interest and motivation to go further here. So I just would like to show you a small example. It's also something about climate. This is a couple watching an advertising spot, and the woman, the wife, is addressing her husband and saying, "Okay, let's change to renewable energies." And he says, "No, it's too expensive. We can't do that." So how does it go on? He's watching his iPad and he does not really realize the penguin beside him and punishing him, sledging him for this statement. And the popcorn is flying, and then there is the power from renewable energy is more economic than a power from conventional production. So this plot could be seen. He is interested in house finances. He has fun in animals, and he was all of a sudden in the subject environment of climate change. And in the communication, of course, a lot needs to follow now. It should not be only one example. Some synergies need to be built up, and he should build up his interest. Why is it like this, that conventional production is more expensive than the sustainable energies? Maybe he's looking in these elements in detail, how a solar cell works, for example. So let me summarize some of these items. If we did everything correct, our spectator will be there at a later stage, realizing certain issues. And this works that he is dedicating his time to climate, that he is building up an attitude, and he's reflecting, how can I be part of it? How can I be responsible? Then he is trying to restructure his behavior and realizing certain things here. And at the end, he is working together in a community and realizing the climate transformation. So the first update of the hero film here, covering all the points with hub elements, and from our work we could learn that it needs more than one film to solve the biggest problem of the humankind, because the target groups we have and the corresponding levels with which they can trigger are completely different. In our work, with which we are confronted, there are also some prejudice. According to my opinion, how can you treat with climate communication? And one of these items is, to which extent do I need to simplify, and can I maybe shorten contents here? This is something which appeared again and again in this work, and I think in climate communication partly you need to massively shorten content. And I already mentioned this, that it's basically, if the content is 10 minutes long, at some point the spectator says, I can't anymore, and he's stopping, his attention, because the density of information is gigantic. And that's why it's probably better to simplify and to see that you divide the whole package into individual parts. Another problem here, or another issue, may I show animals on a melting ice. It's quite good for an ice bear. A good example is here the ice bear. The ice bear on the ice field, are you allowed to show him, because it's dying out, and it's a sad fact. And it's not really, does it concern me, is the big question. I have to say yes and no. We saw the example with the penguin. We showed it to somebody who has been involved in climate communication for a long time. We showed it to him and he said, "Oh, it's quite fun. You showed the video with the penguin, but you shouldn't do this." And I think it's okay, as long as you are aware that you're exceeding limits and how you play with it. It was not a penguin sitting on an ice. It was an abstract context which people remember, which is very eye-catching. So the question, can I really show a sinister future scenario without any hope? This is something, if you disregard this rule in this hero element, you can do it very well, because it's something which pays attention, which attracts attention, sorry. There's one example from the newsroom where you invite a scientist and asking him, talking about climate crisis, saying, okay, the host says if we maybe do this or that, doing countermeasures, and the scientist says, yes, maybe if we had done it 20 years ago, but we did not do, so that's the reason why the earth is extinguishing, why the creatures are extinguishing. And when we saw it, so we had a very bad feeling in our stomach, because we said it was maybe a realized moment. And if I go to form it in short and brief, that everything we do is without hope. And if we show this future scenario without any hope, it's a completely different statement, and it's very negative. So that every spectator says, I stop at this level, I don't go any further. You need to differentiate between the intention. So does each film need to be a green film? And the answer here is yes and no. It should be a green aspect involved, yes. To be able to create something new, we need to reach the state that if we make a trailer and if we have a climate communication here, which is evident that the spectators see from which year is this film, maybe it's 10 years ago when the film was made, and society will consider green communication as a standard communication, and in the end there needs to be a recommendation to act. And I am of the opinion, yes and no, it doesn't have to be. Al Gore in his film, An Unpleasant Truth, he also made some recommendations to act, some recommendations for actions. The question is, do you need it today? I think it's not necessary, because you have to see to which extent everybody is able to take part in the processes. And if I say, okay, you need to do this or that, for example, in a movie, he then probably will not exploit his full potential. It should be a voluntary thing. And in such a small advertisement spot for renewable energy or sustainable energy is something different. You can also transfer some recommendations for acting here. But if you're talking about personal things, about things which concern your personal life, everybody needs to decide himself or herself what to do if he wants to put his strength into some climate or environmental issues. So this is all I wanted to say, Christina. Thank you, Christian. A lot of input and a lot of eye-opening issues, I think. I would like to say when I see that we are on time, and I would like to answer the questions from the audience. And I also have some issues. Just from the beginning to the spectators, you feel free to take part in the Zoom chat. And if you want to think about it a little bit, I will start to ask a question to Christian. Christian, you were talking about the fossil industry and that there is a certain opinion building mechanism behind it, an opinion building instrument behind it, and that communication is really worth being integrated here, or that maybe it's even the opponent here, the industrial component here. Maybe you should tell something, what you found out, what your insights are within this context, this industry communication, this invisible thing which is in the head of everybody. So on the one hand, we were researching for substances, for issues, how you can make such a film, and we found something like Exxon, the climate crisis issue. It's quite funny. We had a task force in the 70s and the 80s. It's a group of these scientists who said, okay, our business model, which we are performing here, is harmful and it can destroy the planet. And we went to the management board with these results and asked them, okay, what do we do? And we found out that Exxon is not 100% safe anymore, or sure anymore. So we will be closed to some point, and we had to see what can we do with our motivation. And you see that by lobbyism, by lobby work, you can be super active. If you look into the field of immobility, how many people are concerned when they drive their electric car that the scope or that the range is not sufficient, that the petrol stations, the coverage of petrol stations, the ranges, and due to communication, we managed to get the energy from solar for solar purposes. So if the sun is not shining, it's even easier to drill deep into the earth, to pump oil, and to bring it to refineries by ships or lorries, and to distribute it worldwide to petrol stations and heating systems. So this is an enormous barrier against which you need to build up new ideas and new insights, maybe. And you should not really observe these facts like we in our climate communication. You can also work with fake news. If you can make the world as you like it, you can also adapt everything to your own perspectives and intentions. And if I hear, okay, it's not too bad, nothing needs to be done. So there is a communication advantage or a benefit, if you want. So, of course, they have also elaborated this by using budgets and monetary trends. So, bringing people together who will shoot such a film as a team. Maybe you can give some explanations with regard to climate protection. What do you observe within this context? It's good that you're talking about this. I just forget to mention it. Felix will be angry about this probably later. So what we were talking about in our communication, we are far away from the industry films, from the medium films as far as communication for a good thing. So we are really involved, and we are really trying to network people who maybe have not talked with each other before, that the solar producers, the software manufacturers, bringing them together, creating synergies, and also facilitating communication here. All the facts are on the table. We only need to talk about it. And we can do this by unusual alliances, which we build up. Basically, everybody wants the same. You need to tell it a little bit differently time after time. Like in the you need a medium term. You don't need to come with Greta Thunberg, and you say, okay, my daughter is also stressing me with this. But maybe a medium-sized company owner is interested in money, and if we want to create our world in a climate-neutral way, we can do this by means of transformation and renovation. And it needs to be implemented, and you can also win these, industrial people and bringing them in, and the entrepreneurs, if you want. So it's a good keyword here, I think. We were talking about the question that you are allowed to show. It's also an issue which is encountering, which is very important for me, that you have a series of facts and pictures which you don't think about maybe, or which you don't take so seriously. What do you think are pictures and images which you which touched you in a deeper way? What is important for me, I think, is that each image, each picture, and if you say I can't see it anymore, needs to be presented in a new combination to be more impressive. I don't have any image in particular which I can't see anymore. It depends on the context. The ice bear in the ice field is not, is more the picture where you say, okay, I need to become active here. It depends a little bit on the target group. If you talk to young people, we were talking about a postcard where we were talking about fish catching, and it's a popular subject maybe. And as an adult, maybe you say, I can't hear it anymore. But the one or the other is interested in it. It's not the picture is not so interested, but for which target group the image and pictures are processed. Today, we are accustomed to the fact that we cannot really continue in the RTL target group. 50 female, male, everything is mixed together. So the different groups of human beings, they have their own bubbles, their own interest bubbles, and they can also control their own entertainment program in the evening. So you need to be able to bring the climate crisis near to them. And this is also possible because climate crisis affects every little part in life. So you will find some points, some contact points, how to implement it. It's a good point. I would like to talk about it. And I received the information about the tweetback. And probably this was not the right one. And I would like to correct PAKB. It's a combination under which you can send us questions. PAKB. I would like to give you some more minutes because maybe somebody wants to ask questions. I would like to ask you within the context of hub help. I think for me, it's imaginable to assign it, to allocate it. You brought one example of a very old movie to make it quite clear. I would like to present it, yes. I told you yesterday that you probably could imagine this with Dirty Dancing. It's a film from the 80s. Maybe some of you know it. When it came into the movies, there was a run to the dancing schools, and people were full with enthusiasm. Patrick Swayze, he got to know somebody in a holiday camp, a woman spending her holidays there and taking part in a dancing competition with a teacher and so on. So this was the hero in the movie, saying, okay, I'm going to the dancing school to learn something. This is the hub. You go there, and what you saw where the idea was founded to put something into practice. And the question is, how can I do such a lifting figure? This is the big highlight scene in the film, this lifting figure. So this is the structure of the film if you want, as far as our triangle is concerned. Yes, it's a beautiful idea. And just one more topic. We were talking about filmmaking and authors, theater creators. I would like to ask the question, coming from a very fictionary, realistic, real life, and talking about climate communication, there are also some approaches. And if I want to have this hero moment, where do you see potential for fictional storytelling to use this without the big stamp climate film on this? It's not an easy question. For example, this can be, you can have it play, for example, it can be the Dirty Dancing example, it can be protagonist, it could be a climate activist, but it's not in the foreground. It's an attribute which you allocate to this person, and it's not really the deepen subject, and all the story has nothing to do with the subject. So they know that how somebody is interested in it, to have a role picture, a role image, a role model, so that the people who see it, they want to imitate it, they want to put it into practice, to create heroes, and to say, okay, that's the way I want to be. That, like in the Dirty Dancing film, for the climate communication, this doesn't exist, that you activate by this kind of entertainment, by this kind of movie. It can be a film, it can be such a dancing film like Climate Crisis, subject to cause a run to this sort of communication. I think it's a beautiful final statement. And basically, we don't have any further questions. I think the communication is getting a little bit tired. And if you don't have any further remarks, Christian, this would be possible. You could also go into the link to the chat In the meantime, after this workshop, we were thinking about this, and Felix went on um, a world journey, and he was asking climate psychologists and scientists all over the world, asking, why are you doing this, and what is your motivation? Convenient Lie is the title of the film. It's being produced, and there's also a trailer. You can post it. It's probably very interesting, and I thank you for spending the time with us, and I hope that you have a nice evening. We express our thanks to you, Christian. Thank you for your time and this great overview and compiling all these fantastic ideas in the context of climate communication. Thank you. Thank you to you all, and I wish you a nice evening, and you have probably a short break, and then we continue here. Thank you so much. See you later. Bye-bye. Ciao.